Hello, 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 hello. Are we ready for some podcasting? Welcome to In the Closet with. It's once again Pride Month, and this year I wanted to celebrate with my fellow creatives. Throughout June, the stream will be guested by a variety of people, where we talk about the queer experience. Today, I'm joined by Leo, he, they, also known as Crew, on Twitter. Hello, Leo.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Leo. I also go by Cruve online. I am a Scottish trans Basque non-binary illustrator and comic artist, who specializes mostly in Dungeons and Dragons and too many OCs.
Is there such a thing as too many OCs?
At this point, I'm probably in the triple digits, so maybe a little too many. I mean, it's fine. It's fine.
I would say it's comfort food.
Yeah, it's just, I like making hot boys so I can project onto them.
Oh my god, this is so relatable. Would you say that creating OCs has been like an outlet for you to fuck around and find out in a way?
Oh, I think so. I mean, a lot of them, I put a little bit of myself into them quite a lot. Like sometimes, not necessarily the D&D ones, but the other ones have sort of, I make them wear my clothes. And my most recent D&D character is like, you have my nose now, you poor soul, but I'm gonna make myself like it by giving you one. So it is a way to like kind of explore things, and like a lot of my male characters tend to be more feminine as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to just kind of play around and fuck around and find out, really. Just see what vibes of me, see what vibes I'm going for. Mostly high-waisted shirts. I mean, puffy sleeve shirts and high-waisted trousers
So for you,
is the look.
For you, they're kind of like a fashion outlet.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
For what I can't afford.
Oh yeah, oof, yeah. That is truly relatable. At least it's a free wardrobe in a way.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, I wish I had horns and this sweet shirt. I think that'd be really nice.
Why couldn't horns be a real thing? Horns and tails.
I know, right? Oh, I love a tail.
Especially one that is, I'm blanking on the word so hard at the moment, but one that you can like move.
Prehensile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
often dream of it. Just being like, oh.
Yeah, let me hold my extra iced latte in my tail.
Oh my god, yes. I know that if I had a tail, it would be like a rat's tail. For sure. Or like a possum. I don't get the fun like monkey ones or the cute little devil ones. It's like, no, little rat boy.
I mean, rat tails are cute though.
They are cute. I really like them, but a lot of people don't like them, which is very sad. Wow. I had a lot of rats growing up, and loads of people would be like, ew, their tails are gross. And I'm like, no, they're really cute.
Lots of people just are wrong, and it sucks to be them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they don't get to know the joys of rats, get to hear them giggling.
Have you ever truly been happy unless you made a rat giggle?
Yeah, right? Or make their little eyes boggle, although it's a bit uncomfortable, to be honest. But it's still cute in its own way.
So, aside from knowing that you were always fond of rats, when did you know you were perfectly queer?
I knew I was perfectly queer. Well, I feel like I'd known longer than this point, but I just never ever put a word onto it because I was like, that's just who I am, I guess. I'm just a strange little man. So like I think I first noticed when I was at a bus stop. I was on the bus going to college. And I was just sitting at the top of the bus and I looked out the window and there was loads of girls at the bus stop and I was like, oh, girls are so pretty. And I was like, oh my god, wait a minute, girls are so pretty. And I just remember like sinking down into the seat, be like, just like, oh my god.
Gay panic.
Gay panic. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I just realized girls are really hot. But yeah, like before, but it's really weird because like thinking back to it, like the first person I was ever sort of like into in a I would like to kiss them kind of way was a girl. And I just never thought of it being any sort of label thing. I was just like, oh, she's cute, I'd love to kiss her, teehee. And then just was like, I don't know, I just didn't be like, oh, I must be gay. I was just like, yeah, that's just the way it be.
So for you, it was at least from what you're telling me, I'm kind of getting the gist of for you. It wasn't something like you felt ashamed about, or did you ever feel like you had to keep that hidden?
No, not really. Like oh my god, my dog's here. Hello, Bee. No, my family has always been very accepting of LGBT people. Like my mum has so many gay friends and she would tell me all about her friends who wished that they were trans or like wanted to transition when they were younger but couldn't. And my dad is like an old hippie man, pagan wizard, so he's like totally fine with all of it. So it was always like a completely normal thing that we had gay friends, gay cousins, gay people coming round. So it was never something that was like, oh my god, what's going to happen if I came out? It was like, if I come out, then I'd probably come out. And to be honest, my family knew before I did, or felt this, they knew before I did. My mum, because I had a friend come over from America, and my mum was like, oh, is this your girlfriend? I was like, no. She was like, oh, okay, cool. And then also, apparently my dad knew I was gay in some way. And I was like, how did you know? And he was like, well, look at your art. I was like, okay. Fair, very fair comment.
So you always been like very open about showing your art to your parents as well?
Yeah, I would draw them a lot of stuff, and I'm like, here's two boys kissing, and they're like, oh, gee, thanks, bud.
That's so sweet. It's such a refreshing narrative, because I think a lot of queer people are spoon-fed the narrative of being gay is tragic, and coming out is tragic, and it's scary, and it's difficult, and it can even be dangerous, and all of those things can be true depending on your background. But to me,
sure.
it always makes my heart swell hearing someone who just had, like, I hesitate using the word normal childhood, because what the fuck even is normal, but at least somewhat of a stable childhood, it sounds like, where you always had your parents back, and that is so tremendous.
Yeah, they've always been really great, and they've gotten even better over the years. Like, I like to say my mum had like an amazing character arc, because when I first came out to her as non-binary, I was like, Mum, I think I'm non-binary, and she's like, what is that? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I was like, cool. And then she called on my dad and was like, his name is Gerard. And she was like, Gerard, have you heard of this non-binary thing? Isn't it the dumbest thing you've ever heard? And then I was like, neat. Never doing that again. And I had kind of accepted, because like they've been very, like, my family were always like gay, lesbian, bi, stuff like that. That's fine. But they didn't understand the quote unquote new stuff. Like the they them pronouns and stuff like that. They don't understand the it being a plural, which is stupid because it can be used as a singular. Never mind. So yeah, I told them that, and then they were like, silly, that's dumb. And then I drew a picture, a Meet the Artist picture, and I posted on Instagram, and I wrote NB at the top, because I was like, I'm not going to say my pronouns are she, her, because I would die inside if I had to do that. And my sister messaged me, and she's like, hey, Leo. I wasn't Leo at that time, but that's the name I'm going to use. She was like, hey, Leo, what does this mean on your picture? I was like, oh, it means I'm non-binary, like, don't tell mum, but I'm non-binary. She's like, oh, already told her. She was the one that noticed it, and she was the one that asked. I was like, oh. And I was like, oh my god. And she was like, oh, no, it's fine. I explained it. She gets it. Everything's fine. Like, don't worry. She's not upset or angry or anything like that. She just wanted to know what it meant. And so my mum called me up. She's like, I'm going to come down and see you with your dad, and we're going to come hang out and get some coffee. And I was like, okay, yeah, no problem. And they came down, and they weren't like upset or mad or anything like that. They were just being normal at the start, like how they usually talk to me. And then when we were walking up the road to the cafe, my mum went to me and went, we always thought you were an elf, but turns out you're a goblin. I was like, yeah. And then we went to the cafe, and I was like, if these fuckers, if they tell me about this in the cafe, I'm gonna cry. And of course they did. And they're like, don't worry, we'll always love you. You be whoever you want to be, you identify however you want to identify, we'll just be here regardless of everything. And then I was like crying, and then my dad started crying, and I've never seen him cry. And I was like, why are you crying?
That's so dang sweet.
Yeah, so like once it was explained to them in a better way, because when I tried to tell them and they kind of came out negatively, I never tried to explain it a bit more. But once they my sister explained it to them, and now they're like #1 fighting fam for trans rights. Like, some of my mum's friends, because I moved on from being like just non-binary to being transmasc as well, and that's a lot easier for them to understand because the pronouns are a bit easier. And my mum's friends have been like, oh, I just don't get it, you know, I just don't get the changing of gender thing. It's just a bit strange, isn't it? And my mum's like, no, shut up. It's just like, I don't have time for this. I'm not doing anything. I'm retired, but I don't have time for this. I was like, yeah, I know, right?
Oh my god, that's such a sunshine story, especially because your first like your first encounter with it was somewhat challenging, with her like challenging your view of yourself. And I really do agree that it does seem like there is like this generational gap where trying to break gender norms can be quite tricky. Like myself, I lean more into just like female than non-binary, but I definitely am super comfortable with they them as well. And that is because I just love male aesthetic things on myself, like suits, etc.
Hell yeah.
And
it's a strong look.
I dig it, but you know, my mother, God bless her, she is very, very, how can I say this respectful? Love you, Mom. Very old-fashioned and set in her ways, and she grew up with boys and girls. So getting me, like the super weirdo who is just like, you know what, if I want to wear a suit, it doesn't make me a man. I just fucking love a suit, dude. And to challenge her with that again and again and again, to understand that you can be whoever you want to be in whatever clothes you want to wear. It doesn't define your gender or your person. So I like, even though our angles to it is different, I've definitely come across that kind of attitude where the older generation has a very set view on gender. It is very binary.
Yeah, for sure. Like my dad definitely has a little bit more trouble with it. God bless him. He's like 73 though, but he does try. But when my parents, I feel like, kind of get it, because my dad was raised as a girl.
Oh.
Because my grandmère, my grandmother, wanted a girl when my dad was born, and my grandma was actually bisexual herself and very open about that. Even though it was like the 1900s, she got kicked out of private school because she was a lesbian, or like kept flirting with all the girls. And then she just left and started breeding rabbits.
What a family lineage you have.
I know, right? So she was very openly not really into men. I think she liked my grandparent. I'm not sure though. I read her biography and I was like, she does not care for this man. But you know, it was like back in the day. So she was actually very openly queer, and even in her book that she wrote, it says on the front that she did not like. She was into women, and that was kind of unusual. So she, well, back in the day, you know, it was like the 1900s, so it was like Victorian era. So yeah, so she raised my dad as a girl, and his name was Nafisha. And that's actually how all of my uncles and all of my cousins refer to my dad. They call him Nafisha.
Oh.
So yeah, he was raised wearing dresses and being very feminine, and he's still a very feminine man now. Like, he's very, very soft, and very gentle, and just very feminine. And he actually said to me that because of my gender and stuff, coming out as trans, he started thinking about his own gender and his own sexuality, and he's like, I'm actually comfortable as a man, I just know I'm a very feminine man, and that's okay. I'm like, yes, it is, Dad. You do you, bud. So yeah, my dad, you know, is very understanding because his gay mother, and my mum, like I said, she just has a lot of gay friends, because she was always she was very tall when she was younger, so she was picked on quite a lot. So, and she was also quite weird. She's a weird lady, like in a good way, but she's weird. So she always kind of went with the people who were sort of the people in the outskirts of like her school and stuff like that, and they were all the gay, like the LGBT people. And she knew that a few of them were trans, or wanted to be trans, but they couldn't because back in the day. And she felt so deeply for them. Like, one of them, this guy we know, he wanted to be a woman, and he got conversion therapy his parents forced on him. And whenever she talks about him, she just gets so upset, thinking that he could have had this life that he wanted and then he never got it. So she understands the pain from an adult's perspective as well, which I feel like parents can sometimes be a bit more understanding of
Yeah.
than talking to their children. So she knows it from an adult perspective of like being trans.
Yeah, it is weird how that works, that we've all been children once, but we so easily forget how that is. Like, for example, me myself, I can't communicate with children whatsoever. It's just not my forte or in my skill set remotely. Like 18 and below, no thank you. Just not for me. But it is wild how, especially when you're a parent, how little one seems to dip back into that, how it is being a kid, and how you kind of have to meet someone at the same level to be like, oh shit. So that's how it is.
Yeah, and it's just like how parents, like when you were a child once, it's like when they're like, oh, children can't learn about racism or can't learn about LGBT stuff when they're younger. It's like when you were younger, you probably knew these things. Like you knew that these things happened. Like I knew racism was happening when I was a child, and like I knew of gay people when I was a child. Like one of my sister's teachers was gay. I was maybe about 5 when she had him as a teacher. He had pet stick insects. I don't know why I always remember that. But my mum was like, oh, that's Mr. Lemaitre, he's gay. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? She was like, it means that he likes men and like is in relationship with men. I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, children understand things a lot easier than people think that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, at least that's my view of it, is that kids are also way easier to just like ease into seeing the world more open-mindedly, because the reason they don't is because they are colored by the view of their guardians. So when a kid spouts like really vile nonsense, that's not because the kid decided that one day. It's because someone taught it to that kid.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a mirror of wherever they're being brought up. And
yeah,
you haven't
don't walk out the womb being a bastard.
Yeah, exactly, because kids don't have bitterness towards the world unless it's been introduced to them.
Yeah.
And they're not biased unless they've been given bias to hold.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's a shift that I've seen a lot in more recent year, now that I'm of an age where I have friends who are having children, and just to see how they introduce their children to the world is just so refreshing.
Oh yeah,
where
for sure.
Even though like I have friends who are straight parents, they're just like gay flag and shit like that all of June, just because they don't want your kid to, like, you never know if your kid is gay, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and even if they're not, it's also very nice to just make them an ally early on.
Yeah, or just let them know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And to treat other people who are nicely. Like my niece, she's 11 now, and when I kind of first came out, we all went on holiday together. It was like 5-6 years ago or something like that. And was it? No, it was before pandemic. 3 years ago. I don't know. Time doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
anymore.
no, time has lost all meaning.
Yep. And she was 9 at the time. So 3 years. That was very easy math that I remember.
Hey, I always say gay people don't do math.
True, we don't. So yeah, we saw her, and my sister's just like, hey child, I won't say her name, this is your uncle, they are your uncle now. And she's like, sweet. So she called me, she was like, you're my pet goblin now, but you know. But yeah, it's just like when you tell a kid and respect how like their intelligence, and you respect that you're just like, hey, get this guy, gay people are a thing, they're like, sweet.
Yeah, because
that's fine.
As long as you don't feed them the narrative that being gay is other or wrong, it will just be another thing in the world that exists. It's just like, not comparing gay people to like objects or animals, but it's just like pointing out like, that's a flower and that's a cat and that's a gay person. You're just like, okay, cool, it exists.
Yep.
Since you to really back to your when you realized you were queer,
Yes.
Was that your first crush or slash fascination, or did you have another crush or fascination earlier that expected the expectations of that challenged the expectations of society?
Um, Robin Hood, the fox. um, I didn't really have crushes growing up. Um, I'm actually also sort of demi in
Mm-hmm.
that I don't really get crushes unless I know the person, because the person I saw at the bus stop, one of them I knew them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't really relate to people like that. So I just kind of appreciate the way someone looks, or I'm just like, oh, that's just really gender bro. So it's like any sort of male person that I liked or seen that I like, or my parents would always be like, oh, your boyfriends, because it's like at the time I was like really into Tom Hiddleston and stuff like that, like growing up, Loki or Thor had just kind of come out, and I was like, Tom Hiddleston's really cool. And my parents like, oh, you fancy him? And I'm like, no, I want his hair and his penis.
You just don't get me, mom.
You don't get it, mom. I want to be him. So yeah, it's more like I would see someone and be like, oh, gender bro, and then really like them in that way, rather than being like, oh yeah, I really fancy you, I want to give you smooches. It's just like, no, I want, give me all that, I want it.
Yeah, that's why I worded the question in a way where it doesn't have to be romantic. It can also be a fascination, because at least to me, fascination doesn't have to be a romantic gesture.
Yeah, for sure.
And I super get you with what you're saying about gender, because there's times where I'm like, oh, someone is gonna challenge me on my lesbianism, because I openly thirst on dudes so much, but it's because I want that aesthetic. Like,
Yeah,
I want those fucking chiseled shoulders and that hip area where it just like goes straight into your booty and you can wear pants and look fucking fly. Like, that's
Hell
the stuff
yeah.
that I'm like, oh my god, that dude hot. But it's not like I want to tap that hot. It's like I want to look that hot.
Yeah, it's just annoying when it's just like, I just really like this, and people are like, oh no, you're like sexual, right? It's a sexual thing. It's like, no, this is so far from sexual. I just want to steal everything that he is.
Yeah, exactly. It is fun to talk with other people who are like that. Not that I think I'm like the last couple of years been very open about who I am and what I prefer, so people aren't like, but I'm sure sometimes I gush so much about men that people are like, ah.
Oh, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, I just men are pretty, like when they wear those trousers that show their ankles a little bit. It's like, oh, gender. It's such a dumb one. Or have long, big hands, big with long fingers. It's just like, oh, I wish that was me.
Oh, no, but I get it. I think maybe it is an artist thing, because we tend to, or I generalize, but I think we tend to hone in on specific body parts, once again in a non-sexual way. Like, I can the amount of hands I draw in the air, people probably think I have a hand fetish. It's just that I don't care. Like, you do you. Like, if that's how you type me, they're not to kink shame anyone, because you like there's a lid for every pot, but
Yeah,
hands are
there it goes.
not the weirdest stuff out there. But
No, it's like I remember seeing a thing being like, if you draw feet too well, then you probably have a foot fetish. And I was like, oh, okay.
and
I don't, but I just think feet are hard to draw, so I'm studying them.
yeah, and that's the way I was with hands. Like, I drew like these carrot looking limp things, so I was like, you know what, it's time to actually study the hand and just become decent at it. And so I feel you with the feet, and feet is like my next obstacle, and then I'm prepared for people to just tag me as that fetish person. But for me, it's an artistic thing where I fucking love the human body so much in all shapes and sizes, and it's so fun to just like, as my big thing is noses, once again, like not sexual, but I adore noses.
Yes.
And just like seeing a good nose makes an entire face to me. And that's why like when I see a dude, I can completely remove any sexual desire and just be like, what a good fucking looking man.
Oh yeah. Like, if I see a good snoot, then I just crumble like a wet biscuit. Just, oh, I love a good snoot.
Ugh, I
Especially when it's like got that big dent in the middle,
oh
and it's just like, whoa, it's
yes.
like a shark fin. It's just like,
Yeah. That's something I really enjoy about social media is the like you can say whatever you want about social media and we could have like a long conversation about how terrible it can be, but if I
oh
were
yeah.
to highlight something positive, it's the diversity that gets spread around. And every now and then there will be like a nose post, like admiration post that makes it to my dash where you just see like all these people in profile shots with like the most exquisite nose. I'm like, oh, we're going places. We're going places.
Oh, yes, yes. Love noses. They're just so good and they're so underappreciated. It's like, no, you don't understand. You need big snoots.
Oh, yeah, I'm very very relieved to talk with a fellow nose.
A nose
Yeah,
appreciator.
exactly. I was looking for oh, what's the word I'm looking for when you're like a connoisseur, a nose
Oh yes.
connoisseur.
A fine nose, a snoot connoisseur.
When you're just like this is turning very morbid in my head as I go, but you know when you like slosh the wine around in your hand. I just imagine like a nose like sloshing around your head like that's a good nose.
That's a good snoot. Finely aged.
94 model. Very good.
So good.
You already mentioned like how at least from the story you shared how positive your relationship with your parents turned out to be, but what's the most positive impact being queer has had on you in general?
I feel like it's genuinely made me a lot more confident. I was very shy growing up. Like, a lot of people, even in my high school year, didn't really know who I was because I just like scoot into the shadows. But yeah, I think it just made me a lot more confident. Like, I can talk to people now. I used to not really be able to talk to people. Like, I probably wouldn't be able to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's not because of just like a queer thing. D&D has also helped incredibly with that. Um, but yeah, it's just like I feel like I can be who I am and talk to people confidently, being more comfortable in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I can be more open and be like I like making people laugh and I like joking around and I feel like I can more freely do that in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Like with my family and stuff like that, like I'm always just like, oh my god, guys, it's like 11 days till I eat those teats, baby gonna get designer nipples. And like I wouldn't be able to have done that before. I would never joke around with my family like that. But now I'm just like, hey guys, guess what? I'm gonna get hot shaped nips. I'm not, but it's just like stuff like that. Or like me and my sisters were like talking at a party that we went to recently. And we were just making jokes about how I was gonna become a toxic man. I'm not. Um, but we were just like, you need to go pretend you like football. And I was like, I don't like football. And they're like, no, you like football now, you. And like I was talking to my sister's boyfriend. And I was like, he was like, you need to like the football. You like Liverpool and you like this and that. And I was like, I don't like that. I like ice skating. My favorite ice skater is Yuzuru Hanyu. And he was like, when did you get so gay? And I'm like, I've always been gay, Michael.
I love that
So
I love that you're coming from like a rather soft dad, and then still they're like, but you have to like all the toxic masculinity things.
I know, right? I was like, look at Dad, he's so soft. He just likes doing planes and airplanes. So yeah, they're just joking around, being silly, and I like that. And I like that. I like educating people as well. Like when people talk to me about being trans and stuff like that, because they're always like, oh, I hope these questions aren't too personal. I'm like, honest to God, they're not personal at all. It's just like, oh, when did you realize stuff like that? I'm like, no, it's totally fine. Like, I'm totally fine answering questions about it because I know a lot of people just aren't educated in it and haven't met a lot of people who are trans or non-binary. So I'm perfectly happy to chat, and I'm really glad that they can get that and that they're curious and they're coming from a good place and stuff like that. So I think it's nice to be able to be confident enough to actually help educate people who want to be educated on it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you can in most cases tell when people come from an honest, ignorant place
Mm-hmm.
and when they are just trying to be malicious.
Yeah.
And I have an ounce, or not an ounce, an abundance of respect for people who even take the time to try to educate the people who are being malicious, because that's where I just like, wow, I don't see where you get the energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I get that it is an important job, but it's definitely not a job for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I can totally see it being fun and like maybe even like somewhat therapeutic to just answer those kind of questions from an honest place.
Yeah, for sure. I really enjoy it because yeah, people usually come out of it knowing more and being more empathetic or just understanding, which I think is a really good thing for people to be and to learn and be taught like stuff like that and to keep learning as they get older. So yeah, it's just really nice to be able to be that person who's just like, oh yeah, like here it is. This is what it's like. This is what you can do to help. This is what not to say, so that they can go on to know for if they meet someone like me in the future,
Yeah. Have you obviously don't have to answer this if it was something like too horrible or something that's uncomfortable to go back to, but have you ever gotten a question that just completely threw you for a loop?
No, actually, I've never had anyone be like, oh, blah, 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 or like being like really personal questions. I don't really care. So it's like if someone's like, oh, you're going to get bottom surgery, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Or getting top surgery, it's like, yeah, I am. Getting it next month. Getting it this month at some point. So I'm like, I don't get very like put off very easily. Especially if it's like a very personal question. I really don't care. So nothing's really throwing me back. The only thing that throws me back is it was so stupid when I was at this party. It was my stepdad's birthday. This woman kept coming up to me. She was very, very drunk. And she just coming up to me like, oh, you're so brave. You're so brave.
Ooby
And I'm just like, uh-huh. Okay, thanks. And she just kept saying it to me all night. Every time she saw me, she was like, oh, you're just so brave. And that really annoyed me. I was just like, who are you? Stop saying this to me. I was just like, what is happening? And like, she was talking to my mom about it. And mom was like, oh, we're just talking about you. And then she just held my hand and was like, we just think you're so brave. I'm like, oh my God, stop calling me brave. I'm just living my life for fuck's sake.
Oh my God. You found that one straight ally who's trying too hard.
Yeah. And it was just like, I thank you for the sentiment. Just stop it now. But then other people were like, oh, but I do think you're brave and stuff like that. And it's like, that's fine. But I know you. And I don't like it when strangers are like, oh my God, you're just so brave. Because my partner is trans as well. And everyone at the party also knew that she was trans. So the same woman came up to her and was like, I just think you're so brave. And Sandy was like, who are you? Who are you? I've never met you. And then she did it to me. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening?
The thing that I think a lot of straight people don't get is that I understand that their sentiment of like saying that you're brave, because from them it comes from a point where they probably acknowledge that they wouldn't be able to stand in that quote unquote social stigma that a lot of queer people have to find themselves in.
Yeah.
But what they fail to acknowledge in that same breath is that straight people are creating that stigma. And if like we wouldn't have to be brave if the landscape wasn't the way it was. So it's like a double-edged sword where you're like, I see where you're coming from and I have to be sympathetic towards that, but can't you please try to stand in my shoes for 2 damn seconds before you open your mouth?
Yeah. And it's just like, I wouldn't consider myself brave. I'm just inconvenienced by how difficult it is to transition. Because it's just like, people are really annoying about it and people can be really cruel about it. And it's just like, just stop doing that. Like, I mean, it's pretty much just rewording what you were just saying, but yeah, it's like, you guys did this. I'm not being brave. I'm just living my life regardless of what people say, which I guess can be a brave thing, but it's just like, just vibing here, bro.
Yeah.
Just vibing.
It's just that the bravery is like, I think most of us don't consider bravery. We just consider it living. And when it's put out as bravery, we're made aware that what we're doing can be potentially even dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and it's like,
cool,
I know
mood
it.
killer.
Yeah, it's like I know it's like I didn't do this because I'm like, oh, I must be so brave. It's like I'm just doing this because I have to. Size.
I personally believe that a lot of this stems from just, of course, lack of awareness and education and everything. And as we know, a lot of that, sadly, in a way, comes through media. And that leads me into the question that what has been the most important queer representation in media for you? It can be fictional or real or both.
I think it's just like whenever there's so rarely characters who are non-binary. There's been a few more recently, like Jim from A Flag Means Death, or some characters from Steven Universe. I can't remember their name, but they were like Sadie's partner in the later episodes. I just love it when the characters automatically use they them. No questions, no bother, no trip ups, just they just are they them. And I think I get so teary whenever that happens, when it's just like that's just what it's like when it's normalized. And it's just like, oh yeah, they. Or it's like, oh, I go by they now and my name is Ben. And I'm like, all right, hey Ben, what's up? And it's just like when people show just that immediate transition to just being like, yeah, cool, great. That's it. It's like, oh, it's so nice to see when it's not made into a really big deal, and just normalized. And I think that's always really fantastic to see. Or just like, I mean, anything that shows LGBT people is not like this big sad story where they come out and they're having such a horrible time. It's just like whenever it's just like a nice representation where it just is what it is and no one really cares.
Yeah,
That's the good shit.
absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought up Steven Universe, because that's the show that I loved so much, but I tend to sometimes forget it in like the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, what do you mean?
But I think Steven Universe doesn't get enough credit over how revolutionary it was, because I don't know if you view this the same as me, so I'm not going to project my opinion on this onto you, but feel free to chime in. But I do think a general gripe that I've had with a lot of queer media in more modern times is that it can feel a little spoon-feedingly and a little, this word has been so abused, but like woke in an annoying nature, where it's trying so damn hard to educate the straights in a way. Like it's not really there for the queers, because we already know. It's more for the straights to like, this is what non-binary means, and this is what lesbian mean, and this is what agender mean, and blah 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 blah. Just like this, you feel like you're having like a class session, and it's not from a heartfelt, effortless place. It is more like a checklist from a studio, so everyone feels seen and included. And I think Steven Universe did that so effortlessly, where I never felt like they'd like deep-throated me with symbolism over queerness. It was just like, this is character ABC and they're XYZ. And sometimes it was just very seamlessly braided into the story, where you're just like, oh shit, they're gay, like they have a same gender partner or whatever. Or sometimes it was actually made a point out of, but it was still relative to the main narrative.
Yeah, I never. Oh my dog's just like having a weird dream on the floor. Sorry, she's like pushing. Yeah, like Steven Universe is done really well. I mean, I love that show. I still love it. I haven't watched it in a while, but it was really good. And yeah, it was just like the gems or whatever, or other characters, they just are.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like they had this like fully fleshed out story that had not really anything to do with it. Because it's like having queer stories is fun. Like when it's like, oh yeah, you know, they're queer and that's their whole thing. But it's really nice to see a story happen where the character is queer. And they're just having a story rather than the story is that they're queer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just like so refreshing. I mean, that's why Our Flag Means Death was so good, because it's like they're gay, but the story is that they're pirates.
Yeah.
It's like, hell yeah, you know, and just it's just nice to have a story happen for them rather than to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something, again, I think I personally haven't sadly watched Our Flag Means Death yet. I mean to. I hope to get to do it this summer with my partner.
good shit.
Yeah, I have to be in a place where I can be an emotional mess watching it because it seems to be a lot of emotions.
You'll need it.
Yeah, so I just have to save up my tissue boxes. But with Steven Universe, especially for as a good example on that, is the whole thing with Pearl and Rose, where when you, especially as an older person, when you've grown up with having queer representation being somewhat rare to non-existent, and then just seeing, yeah, they were an item, and Steven never ever makes a deal out of that. He's just like, yeah, that was mom, and it's never addressed like an anomaly.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful, and I think that's very, very important, at least for kids. I mean, it is the kid show, but man, is it relatable for adults as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of trauma going in there where you can be like, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really nice seeing like newer shows, sort of like Gravity Falls and stuff like that. I know there wasn't that much queer representation in that, but Alex Hirsch really fought for it, and like people are really fighting for the representation that they want to show.
Yeah.
Even if hold on, I'm just grabbing my dog. Even if a lot of the execs and stuff fight back and stuff, but they're like really trying to get it to happen because that's what, like, they were like, you guys make your own shows, and now the queers are like, we are. They're not for you. It's just so nice to see like LGBT people making LGBT stories that are good and not about being, the only thing about it is that they're gay. Like a lot of straight people will be like, this person's gay, and that's their whole trope.
Yeah, and
it's nice to see them not do that.
I was just reminded of another example where you can see how far we come, but also like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel we can see already like a baby's first step back then, which was the spoiler alert for a relatively old show, but the season finale of Legend of Korra.
Oh, I never watched it.
Okay,
but I know what happens.
Okay, so in the very end of the last episode of the last season, Korra and Asami, two female characters, they walk into what is known as the spirit realm together, and at the very last shot, they hold hands. Like they look at one another, grab one another hands, and walk in. And a lot of people are like, sure, you can read that as gal pals.
Yeah.
But they also had a conversation earlier in that episode that holds a lot of, like, especially if you're queer, you know that these are two women talking to one another in a romantic context.
Yeah.
But today, I think a lot of people can watch that show and be like, oh my god, I can't believe they didn't even fucking kiss at the very least. Like, they held hands. That is so straight. Like, straight people could have done that, no issue. But if you just go through a little time travel and go back to that time, it's hard today to understand just how major this was, because during the show, Korra, the main character, she had several male partners, or at least romantic interests. And then in the very last episode be like, no, she's my girlfriend. And then in hindsight, they have released comics where they are confirmed partners.
Yeah.
And I think today we aren't able to appreciate just how big this was for a AAA Nickelodeon show to do this. And I can only imagine how they had to fight to even have them holding hands.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just get so upset when people are like, when like a show comes out that's queer and people are like, it's not enough, I want more. And it's like, I understand you want more and need more, but please, it's so nice to get representation at this point.
Yeah.
Please don't be angry.
Absolutely. It makes me happy that I'm a little older, so I've been able to witness this revolution, if you want to call it that, before my very eyes, because I've seen it firsthand. I've talked about in the previous episode about Mass Effect from BioWare, and how what today is almost laughable because it's so weak in terms of representation. Back then was just like mind-blowing because at least there was a freaking gay person there.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god, we've got one, guys, everyone slow down, we've got one.
Yeah, exactly. And
now people are like, oh, we have 7, ugh, not enough. And it's like, we've come so far.
Yeah, so not to be like kids today, man, but kids today don't realize how good they have it compared to when we
Like,
grew up.
it's like, I mean, when I don't know how old you are.
In my 30s.
Okay, I'm 26. So a 90s baby.
Yeah, same.
So it's just like watching old shows, like rewatching Friends or something like that, and you're just like, oh my god,
Woofaroo.
woofaroni, this did not age well. Or it's just like watching older stuff, and you're like, oh, I really liked this before, but now I really hate it. Oh no.
Yeah, I think the biggest crime of that is Big Bang Theory. I've never seen a show
Right.
stale so quickly as Big Bang Theory, because even as a kid, like, not to be like that hipster, but I never enjoyed Friends, The Simpsons, like American shows in general wasn't for me, because American culture is so far removed from Norwegian culture. So
Oh, yeah,
it just
sure.
wasn't relatable to me. But I remember like the first season of Big Bang Theory was like, haha, funny nerds, and then suddenly the whole quote-unquote woke revolution just came everywhere and everyone had their eyes opened, and looking back at Big Bang Theory is like, oi oi oi, this is some stale ass cheese, man.
Oh my god, it's so bad. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, they're just really casually being like really
Everything
like
bad.
everything's terrible. It's like, oh no.
It's like they had the opposite checklist that most studios at least should aim to have today, inclusivity. Instead they had the checklist of all the isms, like racism, misogynism, like they had all of that in the office of what they could check off for every episode, it feels like.
Oh, it's awful. I mean, I think the guy that made it was a bit
Yeah.
Or it's just like, 'cause I used to really love like Black Books, Father Ted, the IT Crowd, and now it's just like Graham Linehan, you mad bastard, what you doing? You being horrid. It's always.
Oof.
But with Black Books, which was my favorite one, Dylan Moran. I don't know if you ever watched Black Books.
I haven't.
It's very good. There's a guy in it called Dylan Moran who also co-wrote it, and he is very like pro-trans. He's like, I don't care what you do, just live your life. So I'm just like, he's the only one that did it. No one else. So just death of the author of Graham Linehan.
Oh, this
Bless you.
this brings me into the next question though, because I think throughout the years we've like we the queer people have said, well, we'll do it ourselves kind of mentality.
Yep.
And do you have a passion project relevant to being queer?
Oh, I have many. I have so many just like stories where it's just like they're gay, yay. I mean, my D&D, all my D&D stuff, all of my characters are LGBT in some kind of way. All my OCs are LGBT in some kind of way. I literally cannot make straight characters at this point. Oh god, my mum's calling. Mom, go away.
I'm busy, Mom.
Mommy, no. So yeah, all my characters are gay in some kind of way. I'm currently writing a comic, which is, I can't talk too much about it. I'm not allowed to talk too much about it. But all the characters are gay. Except from, well, actually, yeah, there's a character who's a personification of a haggis. He's probably asexual in some kind of way.
Oh my god.
So yeah, everything I make is queer in some way. Be it just like characters being trans or gay or anything like that. I can't help myself.
So you're I get the sense that your main passion project is just to normalize how normal it is being queer through your format.
Well, it's like I don't even really have any sort of goal with it like that. It's just that's just the way, like, make the stories that you want to see, and I want to see a bunch of queer people just having found family and being adorable. So it's more for me. I make, like, all the stuff I make is for me, and if someone else likes it, fantastic. So that's kind of how I go with it. So it's like all my comics, they're stories that I've done for me because that's what I want to see, and hopefully people want it too. If they don't, they don't, and if they do, that's great. But if I like it, then fantastic, because it was for me in the first place. And I know that I don't want that to sound like vain or anything. It's more just like I'm getting joy from it, and if everyone hates it, that's okay.
I honestly think that's a very healthy way, because this is something I bring up a lot, just like how affected we are by social media.
Yeah.
And I admire anyone who is able to create for themselves first and foremost and just be like, fuck numbers, fuck all of that. Not because you're necessarily ungrateful, because, you know, recognition is very often a nice thing, but sorry, my PC had a big hiccup. I just had to make sure
okay.
it didn't die. It was not me having a brain fart, believe it or not. The ability to create with yourself in the driver's seat, I think, is very, very magical. And I think that's honestly something everyone should strive for. I don't think that's selfish or vain or anything.
Yeah, because like all my merchandise is what I want. It's like, oh, I would love a t-shirt that says this, or I want a keychain of my tiefling. It's just like, I'm gonna make it. If people also want it, fantastic. But you know, it's like, this is for me. These are my characters. I mainly just draw for me. All my art is just my art, and I'm really glad that people like it and enjoy and interact with it. But it's like, hey, I'm having fun over here. If you want to come join me and have some fun, let's have fun together. But if you don't want to, if you don't feel it, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that said, though, I really do get a feeling from, not to sound like I'm creeping around your Twitter 24/7, because I'm not.
My Twitter.
Creepy crawling. But I do get the general sense that people are very infatuated with your work, that they... I think you're hitting that sweet spot with D&D being incredibly popular the last like 5 years or so. But also you're definitely touching upon something that really makes people gravitate towards what you do.
Well, what I find is that people are really drawn to passion. They can not give a shit about what you're doing, but if someone's passionate about it, you can't help but jump on with them because it's so much fun. So I am because I am very passionate about my characters. I'm very passionate about D&D. I try to put that into my drawings because I love my characters. I love talking about them or yelling about them, or just yelling into the ethereal plane, being like, "Oh my god, look at this high-waisted trousers and fluffy shirt. Oh my god, I love it." You know, like, so people are really drawn to passion and happiness because there's so little happiness in this world, that when you see someone being fun and being happy and you can get in on that, like, you can't help but join in. I know that I get really passionate, or like get really excited when someone's really passionate. Like, I follow someone on TikTok who cracks open rocks and sees what's inside. And it's called What's Inside That Rock, and it's amazing. And the person just loves it, and it's like, I love it because you're loving it. Or like, I love watching this guy. He collects ants. I don't like ants, but I love him because he just loves his ants. And it's just like, you can't help but be charmed by people who are just happy and like doing their thing. So that's kind of how I try and think about it. Like, I'm having fun, having a good time. Who wants to have some fun with me, you know?
Yeah, but I absolutely do think you are touching about some quintessential social media mannerism there, because it's either incredibly negative shit that gains traction, or very positive stuff that gains traction. There's the stuff in between, just, it kind of just floats and exists. But seeing someone who is 100% in love with what they do, it's hard to not get infected by that enthusiasm, I think.
Oh yeah. It's just something so nice to see someone happy.
Yeah, no.
And happiness is infectious, and it was just like, it's nice to be happy. It's so simple.
I couldn't agree more. I'm 100% agreeing with you on this.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, your passion for sharks is incredible. I love seeing you yelling about sharks. I'm like, I like sharks. They're pretty cool, but you love sharks. And it's just like, yeah, you love sharks.
Yeah, I feel if I tried to say I didn't at this point, I would be lying.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're great. They're fun little guys.
Great. I think for me, it's when I see people who are so vocally passionate, I get it's hard to phrase this without making it sound negative, because I get envious, but in an admirational way. Because for me, I am relatively shy about a lot of stuff, despite
Yeah.
how my social media presence is. So for me, it's difficult to shamelessly just be like, rah, like all day long about everything that makes me just feel 100%. And
Yeah.
I am so in awe with people who can do that, who is just like, here's like A to Z why I really enjoy this thing, and I will talk your ears off about how just like, yes, do it, spread the good word. But
It's like someone who's like, I made this spreadsheet of various funguses I saw in the forest. It's like, oh my god, yes, tell me about the funguses.
yeah, I really feel like I have to sit like on the sideline and take some notes on how people curate their happy Twitters. Like, how do you just unapologetically spread happiness?
Yeah, I mean, one of my rules with especially on my main account is, if I'm sad, don't go on it. Like, if I'm sad or upset or angry, do not post. I'll maybe complain on my private account and be like, sad boy hours, woo woo. But I try to keep all negativity off of my main Twitter. Like, I don't say words like dislike or hate or anything like that, because people get enough of that, and people come to my Twitter for art, and that's what I want them to see. And if they're having a bad day, I don't want them to see me being like, oh, I hate this, I hate that, because it just brings people down. I want people to come and be happy and have a nice time, rather than seeing someone being angry or upset, because it can make you upset.
Oh yeah, that is
So
equally infectious.
oh yeah, so it's just like, I want people to be able to come to my Twitter and just have a safe time where they know they're not going to get any horrible things said to them. Not like I'd be horrible to people, but they're just going to be there and have a nice chill time.
Yeah, that's my rule of thumb too. Every now and then I can have like an honest post, because I'm a big advocate of mental health.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I try not to like live blog about my own.
Yeah.
But at the very beginning of Pride, my big rule is like, don't be angry on main, because anger is like one of the most infectious things ever. You can be upset about something, you can share about like mental health in a well formulated way, but or you can do whatever the fuck you want. I'm not gonna try to police your Twitter, but these are like my general rules. Yeah. But at the very beginning of Pride, I saw someone making it like their whole agenda to shit on bisexual people and to just be TERFs. I was like, oh, of course they have to. So I did something where I just said, hey, if you gatekeep bisexuals, you can fuck off, and if you're a TERF, you can fly to the moon. And that is so not a me tweet that I was like, for the rest of the day, I was like, oh, shaking. I had angry opinions on me, and they were supportive angry opinions, but I was like, oh, this is so out of character. I was so uncomfortable for the rest of the day, but I got so upset.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to like, it's just like, hey, if you're like this, fuck off, you don't belong here. I've had a couple of those tweets where I'm like, hey, if you like Donald Trump or TERF or something, fuck off. My art is not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few times where I've gotten like grumpier main or something like that, because like people stealing my characters, or people being like, oh yeah, I love stealing your art for my OC. Can I
I've seen those and they send me.
Oh my god, it drives me insane. So I just like, hey, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Put it down, don't do that. And people get so mad at you, and you're just like, please, I'm just trying to live my life and make sure my babies don't get stolen.
Yeah, and the difficult thing here is that, for example, with the whole NFT thing, same. I agree, just to have that out there, same. But I never talked about it, because I felt the more you talk about it, the more you just lure the BitBro dudes to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's the same with like people stealing art, blah blah blah. I always try to just and move on, because I feel as soon as I address, it's the same with like the TERFs and the bi haters or whatever. 99% of the time I just think you're a cocksucker to myself, and then I move on, because I feel if I put it out there, I also manifest them finding me and just making my life sour.
Yeah, like I really wanted to be like, oh, I think I did end up tweeting like NFT suck. I'm not doing them. But I also didn't want to be like, oh, fucking NFTs all the time because I was worried that someone was gonna come and take my art for an NFT to be
Yeah,
like,
to be vile. Yeah.
suck it, yeah. Um, so yeah, people just like are very self-entitled and angry, and you don't want those people near you.
Nope.
So just try not put that energy out there and hope that you don't attract it.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, I feel like it is working because I have to at least say for myself that I witness minimal douchebaggery towards me on Twitter.
Yeah, same. Like I've seen people being like, "Oh, if you get over this certain amount of followers, everyone's gonna be horrible to you." I'm like, everyone's actually pretty
Mm,
nice. Um, like I like it when I post art and I'm like, hee hee, look at this. And everyone's like, tee hee. You know, no one gets upset by it or anything like that because I'm just like, hey guys, isn't this fun? They're like, yeah, this is fun.
yeah, exactly. They're just sharing your enthusiasm, and that's when you kind of feel like you've catered and you dug out a little nice hole for yourself on this whole social media hell planet.
Yeah, it's like when people are like, oh, I really want loads and loads and loads of followers. And it's like, no, what you need is a community. If you have a community and people who will come to hang out, that's fantastic.
Mm,
You don't need to have billions of followers that just kind of are there and don't do anything. You want a little community, and it could be small, it can be big, but if people were enjoying being there with you, then that's what you want. Because those are the people that would be there thick and thin, you know.
mm. Yeah. At the end of the day, you just want some validation.
Yeah, you just want people to be like, "That's cool," and you go, "Thank you." I think so
Absolutely.
too.
Yeah, no, I super agree. Okay, for my final question for you, if you could go back in time and speak with your 13-year-old self, what would you say?
I would say transition sooner because it's a long process.
Mm.
And I would just be like, hey, you know how like whenever you hear a character that you like being referred to as he, him, and you feel butterflies in your stomach, that's a sign. Remember how much you wanted to be Link from Zelda? Yep. And remember how upset you were that you were developing titties? Yeah. Get rid of them sooner, please. So I wouldn't have to be in my mid-20s having to deal with this shit. That's all I would say. Because I was like, I always kind of knew, or I always felt like I wanted to be a boy, but just didn't know the word for it or the process for it, kind of. Or just didn't really, I was just like, yeah, it is what it is, you know? So yeah, I just like, please notice sooner. So the wait list is so long.
Yeah, do you feel like, I guess this is like a self-answering question, but do you feel like if there was more public information about being trans or being non-binary, that you would have known sooner?
Maybe. I feel like I started realizing when I had non-binary and trans friends, or started like having the word for it. But maybe if I had known how viable it is and how common it is and how it's a thing that a lot of people do and that you wouldn't be alone and stuff like that, that it would be something I'd be more willing to jump onto sooner. Because yeah, it's just like when you know you're not alone, it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's how I would tell my little itty baby self. And also cut your hair short because it suits you.
That's so sweet. Well,
because you always get people being like, you know, when they're like, oh, don't get your hair cut short, you don't have the face for it. It's like,
oh no, fuck that noise.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's like, you don't know that.
Yeah, and
you don't
like,
say that to a boy, do you?
Who made the rules for anything? It's the same when you tell people. I meet so many people. It's like, oh, you're so lucky because you have such a beautiful head shape, so you can like shave your head. And I'm like, I would have done it regardless of my head shape.
Oh my god, I really want to shave my head, but I genuinely do have a really weird head shape because I've got a big dent on the back of my head because I got hit with a bat.
But I've heard so many people say just that, like, my head looks weird. I'm like, who the fuck cares? It's just the head. It's the same with noses or whatever. It's just part of our body.
Yeah, do what you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Just have a good time.
Absolutely.
Life sucks. Have a good time.
Yeah, life's too short to be worried about dents in your head when you're shaving your hair.
Although it is a really big dent.
Well, I'm rooting for you if you decide that you want to shave your head one day.
Thanks. I do have the hairdresser like next week, so I'm like, oh. I think I was just gonna tell him do what he thinks would look cool.
Imagine me just standing there in the window with a sign like, rooting for you.
Like, do it, coward.
Do it.
Show your dent.
Flaunt that dent. Be proud.
Oh no, it's really big. It's called R for Harvey.
Well, I say be proud of your dent.
Thanks.
Alrighty. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I was so happy when you said yes.
Hell yeah, I'm always up for chatting with friends.
It's always intimidating reaching out to people that you don't really know that well and then be like, hey, do you want to come chat about being queer?
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I don't usually just reach out to people. I'm like a vampire. I have to be invited in.
Well, I'm glad you accepted my invitation.
Of course, now I have to drink your blood. Sorry.
Oh, well, you know, if you get my blood, will you shave your head? Will you get my shaving courage?
Yes.
Good. Okay, we got a deal. My blood is yours.
Okay, cool. Send it via mail.
That might take some time in customs and some weird
Shit.
tax form things.
Yeah, I don't know if they have an option for blood. They probably do.
I mean, I guess it goes under other on the custom claims.
We'll see.
And then you just write blood and check at your own risk.
Yeah. I mean, it's your blood. Do what you want.
Fair. Do you have any last things you want to say before we jump out?
Just have a good time, everyone. Live your best life.
Oh, and happy Pride.
Happy Pride, yeah.
All right.
Whole month just for us.
Yes. And you know, all of the 11 others.
Yeah. Also, if you're listening, this is a sign to go treat yourself, order something nice for dinner.
Oh yeah. Go
Yeah.
get that grub.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Leo.
Thank you so much, Jaws. Thank you for having me again. This is really fun.
My pleasure. And I'll catch you on the flip side.
Yeah.
All
See you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty. That's it for me. And again, thank you so much to Leo. Go to twitter.com/KROOVV Crew and check out their amazing art. It's so beautiful, especially if you're into D&D stuff, then it's gonna be right up your alley. Alrighty, folks. Take care of yourself, love one another, and I'll see you guys around. Bye.
Hi, I just kind of left. I don't know if you wanted me to stay around or anything. Sorry. Ooh, I'm a ghost.
Hello again, chat, for whoever is stuck around. We got some tail end goodies here.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I was sick of
And you legitimately jump scared me. I was like, he's talking in this outro song. No, you're free to go and do whatever you want.